Hey good people, and welcome back to the channel. Several weeks ago, I saw the movie Wicked for the first time, and after watching it an additional 20 times, I must say that Wicked Part 1 has got to be one of the best musical adaptations ever. The movie is on track to gross at least $750 million, and it deserves all the praise that it has gotten over the past month and a half. Now, a little over a year ago, there was another musical movie named The Color Purple that came out in theaters, and to say that it was a box office bomb would be an understatement. In fact, the original Color Purple movie, which came out in the 80s, grossed 4 times its production budget, whereas The Color Purple from last year took a $30 million hit. Now, some of you may be asking yourselves, why would I bother mentioning Wicked and The Color Purple in the same video? Well, I happen to notice a number of similarities between the two projects. For example, both movies were adapted from their respective Broadway musicals, as well as their novels. Both movies have a female-led diverse cast. Cynthia Erivo, who is the star of Wicked, also played Celie in the Color Purple stage play. Both movies dealt with their female leads struggling to find their place within their respective world. And lastly, both of these movies were met with a mixed reaction from fans who weren't exactly sure that the movie adaptations would do their favorite Broadway play any justice. But one has to wonder why the movie Wicked Part 1 far exceeded expectations, while The Color Purple was considered a huge failure. Now, if you lend me a few minutes of your time, I'll gladly share 5 reasons for this, and it is my hope that future musical movies study the movie Wicked so that they can learn what it means to give the people what they want. So without any further delay, let's jump right in. Reason number 5, a wider target audience. When comparing the movies Wicked and The Color Purple, one major difference between the two of them is that Wicked caters to a more diverse audience, mainly to people who love the Wizard of Oz lore and people who love a good musical, whereas The Color Purple catered to African Americans as well as people who love watching period piece movies. So while nobody projected that The Color Purple would make anywhere near what Wicked made at the box office, The Color Purple had the potential to at the very least gross around $400 million. Now, an argument could be made that last year's Color Purple movie could have catered to a more diverse audience by simply putting the imagination of the main character Celie on full display and incorporating more comedic moments, as well as offering more memorable musical moments in the movie. This approach would have been risky to hardcore fans of the original Color Purple, but sometimes life is about taking risks. Reason number 4, budgets matter. Another difference between Wicked and The Color Purple was the size of their production budgets as well as how the money was allocated. Wicked Part 1 had a production budget of around $150 million, and The Color Purple had a production budget of around $100 million. Some people will see the two budgets and automatically assume that The Color Purple was at a huge disadvantage because the budget was smaller. But in the movie In the Heights, which was also directed by John Chu, it had a production budget of around $55 million, which was within the same margin as Wicked and The Color Purple. But In the Heights is universally recognized as a superior movie to The Color Purple because most moviegoers could see where the funds for the production budget went. With The Color Purple being nearly twice the cost of In the Heights, the movie looked like a glorified stage play that was made on a budget that would be comparable to most Tyler Perry movies. So in my opinion, having the money and knowing how to spend it is essential to properly executing a musical movie. Reason number 3, successful marketing and promotion. Another major difference between Wicked and The Color Purple is how the cast, director, and producers chose to market and promote the movie. During the press run for the movie Wicked, aside from a few questionable comments made by Cynthia Erivo, the marketing was extremely positive. So much so that there are several videos out there which parody Cynthia and Ariana's antics as they were side by side doing interviews together. In Wicked's press run, potential moviegoers didn't hear any horror stories about how poorly the cast were treated or how badly they were underpaid. The Color Purple did, and they did so right before the movie was released in theaters. I'm sure that the negativity associated with The Color Purple's press run was a contributing factor to why groups of people decided to avoid seeing the movie altogether. Reason number 2, a proper adaptation. One thing that many fans of Wicked give the movie credit for is making a movie that was one of the best play-to-movie adaptations in cinematic history. For one, the movie Wicked managed to include all of the original songs from the first act of the movie, while making slight changes to some of the songs and not giving an exact copycat of what was already done. The movie also managed to tell a cohesive story that was easy to follow for newbies of the Wicked universe. The massive sets that were constructed for the movie, along with the exceptional dance sequences, also gave the movie a flavor that was missing from the Broadway production. The same can't be said for The Color Purple. The Color Purple suffered from an identity crisis because it seemed like it didn't know what it wanted to do. As a musical adaptation, The Color Purple only managed to do half of the songs that were in the Broadway play. They also created brand new songs for the movie that were not very memorable, and the scenes with the dance sequences were largely forgettable when compared to other mainstream musicals. Simply put, last year's Color Purple movie had no special sauce, and aside from the music, the movie really didn't differentiate itself from the original movie when it came to storytelling. In my opinion, if The Color Purple went 100% in when it came to adapting the musical into a movie, then I strongly believe that the movie would have been very memorable. And lastly, reason number 1, the director's vision. When I think about the criteria that separates your average musical movie from your very memorable ones, I think about things like creativity, storytelling, the ability to pay attention to the details, memorable dance sequences, and giving the fans what they want to see. Jon Chu, who's the director of Wicked, has seen box office success with nearly all of his mainstream movies, and the reviews for his movies were overwhelmingly positive. The only mainstream movie that Jon Chu directed that was a box office bomb was In the Heights, but that movie also failed because it was released during the pandemic and it was streamed on HBO Max. So whether you like or hate Jon Chu, he is a household name in America. The same can't be said for the director of The Color Purple. Prior to directing The Color Purple, this director had no history of directing musical adaptations or big budget movies. In fact, the director had only directed one movie prior to agreeing to direct The Color Purple, and it shows with how The Color Purple turned out. Now imagine how The Color Purple would have turned out if Jon Chu was attached to direct it. If his work with Wicked and In the Heights was any indication of how he would do, then I would venture to say that Jon Chu would have likely created a balance of comedy and creativity with drama and hope, which makes for a perfect emotional roller coaster. But let's say instead of Jon Chu directing The Color Purple, somebody like Spike Lee or F. Gary Gray directed The Color Purple. It would have been leagues better than what we got in the movies. So there you have it. Wicked was one heck of an amazing movie, and I can only imagine how The Color Purple would have turned out if it were directed by Jon Chu and starred Cynthia Erivo. But this marks the end of my video. If you have any questions or comments related to the topic, please feel free to leave them below in the comment section, and I'll be sure to reply to everybody. Until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Peace.